Hello, my name is Cindy Kenyon. Today I'll be talking about the importance of learning English. So obviously you can understand what I'm saying because you're taking this class, and in this class you're using English, and you might not know English as your first language, and it might come to you as a second, third, or maybe even fourth language, but overall you know the language. Today I'll be talking about why learning English as a foreign language is important. Harper College says English is the third most spoken language in the world. The first most spoken language, not to come to a surprise, is Chinese or Mandarin because there's 1 billion people in China. The second is Spanish because there's a lot of Spanish speaking countries, mostly in Latin America, but also in Spain. And then there's English. So the first reason why is the ability to communicate with the world. With technology, people are able to communicate internationally, and it would suck if someone couldn't communicate with someone just because of a language barrier. Learning English would eliminate that. 32% of countries of English have English as their official language, meaning you could go anywhere in the country and you're more likely to find someone that speaks English. Also, third world countries have been teaching English as a second language. For example, in Kenya, you are taught 2 languages, but one of the languages that you're taught at school is English because English is becoming a growing language, and it has been a growing language for a very, very long time. And also, did I forget to mention, there's 373 million native English speakers, meaning that 373 million people find English as their native language, while 1.5 billion people speak English as a foreign language. Second reason why it is important to learn English is understanding government. Alex Breeden says one of the official languages in the UN or United Nations is English. There are 6 languages that are official languages in the UN, which is Arabic, Chinese, French, Spanish, French, and English. And yes, if you don't know, the United Nations kind of controls and regulates what goes on in the world with the countries that are affiliated with the United Nations. Some third world countries have already adapted to using English in banknotes. There's third world countries that have been colonized and they are now using English in their banknotes. Obviously, colonization isn't a good thing, but it happened, and there's nothing we can really do to do that. But so they're using English as a language for their banknotes. And the last but not least, probably the most exciting one, is traveling. You'll have a better traveling experience if you know English. Journalist Alina McKay says tour guides are more likely to speak English. The reason is you're more likely to speak English than any other language. So the tour guides are going to speak English. Because you don't know, English is an international language. English isn't really set to one country. I guess it is Great Britain, but even the United States, if you didn't know, we don't even have an official language. No one is required to learn English. People in a country have 8% chance of speaking English. So if you were to go to Brazil, you have an 8% chance, a minimum of 8% chance of finding someone who could speak English. Obviously, in a place like Brazil, they speak mainly Portuguese, and it would be definitely harder, so that's why I said a minimum 8% chance of finding someone who speaks English. Emily Padot says knowing English while traveling makes communication easier. So it would be so embarrassing, or maybe not to you, but to me, to have to pull out the translator because you don't know the language, and obviously no fault to you for not knowing the language they speak. But if both parties are able to speak English, it would eliminate the language barrier and not having to use the translator. But just using English, your known English, or even the little bit you know of English will help communications easier. Now let's talk about what we can do to help people learn English. So number 1 is to provide resources. So according to Ellie Kim, Spanish is the easiest language for English native speakers to learn because due to the Latin roots, both of the languages originate from Latin. So if you are an English native speaker, it is recommended that you learn Spanish to also become smarter, to heighten your vocabulary and also just to become more culturally aware. Also, to also another way to provide resources is college study abroad students. They can study abroad to another country and be able to teach the English language, as well as providing money to classes. It wouldn't be fair to tell countries to learn English without providing them the resources and money and funds to fund a classroom. Lastly is contracts for English teachers to teach in other countries, meaning they can teach the language they know. In this case, it would be English, and going and to another country to teach the students or maybe even adults the language. In this speech, we learned the reasons why learning English is good. I feel that English is a good language to learn because you can talk to it to many people. It's not just one country, it's many countries that you can talk to. As I said, 32% of the world does speak English, so you can speak to a lot of countries all. Also, I feel like it isn't just one party's part. As English speakers, it's also our part to know other relevant languages. That's why I said that English is the most easiest language to learn for English speakers. So it is a part for English speakers to learn another language. And in this case,